Fantasy Rap
with Austin and Ozzy.
Oh, I just love those boys.
Hey everyone, this is Fantasy Rap, and I'm your host Ozzy.
And I'm your co-host Austin.
You can find us on fantasyrap.com. That is fantasywrap.com.
Yep.
Hey everybody, welcome to the kickoff to week 12. And the first thing we're going to do is we'll have P's picks. Hey everybody, we've got P here with us today. Hi Sutton. How are you? You doing good?
Yeah.
Yeah? What is this? What are we doing? P's picks? Yeah. So I've got some. Hey, I've got some. So we've got San Francisco. We've got Washington. We've got Detroit. We've got
Dallas.
what some think is America's team. We've got America's team. And we've got Seattle. Sutton, who would you like us to talk about? You chose the Packers, huh? Wow, that's pretty cool. Well, thank you so much for stopping in.
Yeah.
You say go Pack go?
Go back, go.
Say goodbye.
Hi.
And there you've got it. We had Sutton on the show, and she decided that we are going to go with America's team and talk about them from all of the Thanksgiving Day football. What do you think about the games overall?
Well, asleep for probably most of the Cowboys game.
Yeah.
So,
Did you watch the San Fran game? Well, the Dallas game was kind of a sleeper. I mean, not that they didn't play well.
Yeah.
Washington didn't.
I
much.
actually didn't watch any of the Seattle San Francisco game because by the time we got home with Sutton not napping yesterday, it was put her down, and then I had some dishes and some cleaning up to do. So
Yeah.
didn't watch that game, but yeah, we're over here celebrating Thanksgiving, watching the Packers. So
Yeah, that was actually a good game. I'm of course happy that with the San Fran game because CMC had a couple touchdowns and 100 plus yards rushing and 35 or so receiving, and so it was a good
could have
game.
used a little more out of Brock Purdy. So
Yeah, I could have too.
I'm fighting on one of 5 teams tied at 6-5 in that dynasty league that I'm in with Nick. And I think I'm actually playing Nick this week, and he's in second place.
Okay.
So could have used a little more out of Purdy, but
Yeah. I was hoping that I've got Purdy on the same team that I've got. One of them that I've got CMC in our longtime league, and that was I would have loved to have seen at least one of those being a passing touchdown, if not both of them. But
double stack.
Yeah. You take well, and when you've got that type of offense and that type of running back who, he's got, 11 rushing
Yeah, I don't even
and
know
another
exactly
5 receiving or something. So he's got like 16 touchdowns already.
Yeah.
And we're only 11 weeks or 10 games of the 17 in.
Yep.
And if they've got to actually play that last week, he could possibly hit 30 touchdowns.
Yeah, that'd be insane.
That's a stupid number, but
that'd be insane.
So let's talk about our great Packers. It's funny because do I think they're winning the Super Bowl? No. Do I think that they'll go far if they were to make the playoffs? No. So my wish would be to lose some of these games. But at the same time, you love to see that they're getting better. That receiving, everyone says, well, you never and we talked about it, you never get any first round talent for Rodgers. Well, there's no first round receivers on the Packers. On top of that, you're talking about all first or second year receivers, and yet Malik Heath, Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, all of these guys on top of Dobbs and Watson are showing that they can get it done.
Yep.
And then you lose Musgrave, and what happens? You bring in Tyler Kraft, and he catches a touchdown. And I mean, it pretty impressive. And Love looked pretty good. I mean, Love made some amazing passes too.
That touchdown to Watson was a really nice pass. I had picked up Jordan Love earlier in the week, and Detroit, you can throw on them. It's usually their run defense is the better half of their defense. So it's like, well, again, I'm in last place in that league, so really nothing to lose.
Right. And he did really well for you.
Yeah, he his highest fantasy output. So picked him up, and then I also had David Montgomery. So I mean, he ran in for a touchdown and then immediately got the 2-point conversion. So he had a solid fantasy day as well. So, yeah.
So looking at the stats, we had Love go 22 of 32 for 268 yards and 3 TDs, rushed 3 times for 39 yards. Again, you look at their schedule upcoming. Yes, they've got Kansas City. Then they've got the Giants. They've got Minnesota. They've got Chicago, and there's one other game. Is it Washington, maybe?
That sounds right. I'm not 100% sure.
I mean, every one of the teams that they've got outside of Kansas City are beatable. Again, do I want them? I mean, I personally like rebuilding through the draft. And the Packers are notorious for it. I mean, they rarely sign that external free agent unless it's an amazing player, or it's a position of need partway through the season, like they did with Campbell and Rasul Douglas, and then parlay that into, hey, these guys want to stay, sign them to an extension, and they didn't break the bank on either of them.
No,
and then they traded Rasul Douglas away for what amounts to like a 3rd-round draft pick, and they didn't give anything up for him.
Well, they did it was Rasul, and then...
no, but what I mean is, when we got him, we signed him off of someone's practice squad. He starts, he plays great for us, and we parlay that into a 3rd-round draft pick.
Well, people were upset because he'd been kind of aside from the, obviously injuries, but, he'd been the kind of one of the lone bright spots, for the defense.
And he's a great guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a team guy.
I think if he had the choice, he definitely would have stayed.
Oh, yeah. And you look at what he's done since he's gone to Buffalo. I mean, this past week, it was 2 picks and a fumble recovery. I think we talked about it the week before. He had like a fumble recovery or something.
It's the same thing that happened with Micah Hyde.
Yeah.
A fan favorite, guy who loves the team, and they I don't remember with Hyde. Did we end up? Did they release him, or did they? We didn't trade him. I didn't.
No. We let him go. Yeah. We didn't re-sign him at the end of his contract because of the fact that they were misplaying him. He's a safety. They were trying to. They had him as a cornerback, and they thought he's not good enough as a cornerback to give him the kind of money that it would have taken. And then he's gone and had a tremendous safety career. So, it's figure it out. It's not always that a guy comes in and he's a cornerback. Try him at the safety position. Maybe that'll work. So, I think that Love is going to continue to have better games. Is he the star of the future? It's hard to tell.
There's flashes of it. I mean, like I said, you see on some of those throws, you're like, that's a elite level throw. But, then you still have some of the bad and some poor decision making every now and then. But, I mean, as a whole, he looked really, really solid against Detroit. He
did. And Detroit, 8-2. They're supposed to be the cream of the crop in the NFC North. And however, as you and I talked about yesterday, it was a waxing gibbous on Thursday football during Thanksgiving, and they have Detroit has never won a game when the evening moon is a waxing gibbous on Thanksgiving Thursday. 0-13 now, compliments of the Packers beating them. Dylan was 3 catches on 3 targets for 38 yards, and looks like 14 rushes for 43 yards.
Yeah.
A so-so game. However, they with the defense that was out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Then Love was getting it done through the air, so really no need for Dylan to have 25 carries in this game. So
plus he was a little banged up coming in.
Yep.
So
yeah, and we talked about it. I agree that I think this will probably be the last years of or last season of AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones, in the Packers backfield. So whether that's free agent in the offseason or through the draft, I don't,
Yeah, I'm
remains
not
to be
sure.
seen. So
yeah, and maybe the majority of their running backs come in the second, third, fourth round. So maybe with that second round pick,
can hit on
we'll be able to.
Eddie Lacy that can stay away from the buffet line.
He was going to be a star.
Yes.
But ankles don't hold up to 475 pounds. So, but you're right. I mean, he loved the buffet. Next up, we have Watson, who was 5 catches on 7 targets, 94 yards, and a touchdown. Production you like to see.
Yeah, finally, because he'd been struggling as of late. Like we talked about, I think, week prior or 2 weeks ago about how lately a lot of his targets are on those like 3rd and 4, 3rd and 7,
right? And
they just try and throw a sideline bomb, go route to him, and either it's a poor throw or it's contested or whatever. His quality of targets hadn't been very good recently, and so 5 of 7, 94 yards, that beautiful touchdown.
Well, and I read a report that they had scripted that touchdown pass.
Oh yeah.
And I mean the play to Watson, and overnight Coach LaFleur was considering it and decided to take it out of the play, and he informed Jordan that he was taking it out, and Jordan said, no, we need to keep it in. And he kept it in, and heck, it worked. So apparently, based on that story, you read something and you go, okay, maybe it's true.
Yep.
But if that's the case, that means the coach is saying, I believe in you. And it's interesting that Love's throws are starting to get better. He's not completely underthrowing like he was doing a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's a positive change. Yeah. So next up we've got, here's the guy, Malik Heath. 4 catches, 4 targets, 46 yards. Huge output? No. But I think at least a couple of those were first down to get a first down. And if you've got trust in that, he's a 4th or 5th, Dontavian Wicks was getting more targets than he was like the last few weeks. I don't know if Dontavian is hurt.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or what have you. But, here's Heath, probably the 5th option, or 6th if you count the running back, possibly even less lower if you count the wide or the tight end.
Yeah.
And here he is catching 4 of his targets and showing that he's a guy that's willing to go make that catch. Next up, we had Romeo Doubs, 3 of 4 for 37, which is not a Romeo Doubs type number.
Yeah.
But I was playing against Doubs in one of my leagues, so
you'll take it.
Yeah, I was kind of happy. I mean, if you get a win and everyone else gets something, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Next up, Jaden Reed, 4 catches, 8 targets, 34 yards, and a touchdown.
The yardage to me, like watching the game, you're like, only 34 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, he had that first touchdown, which was you can call it a great throw, beautiful throw by Love, threading the needle, but it was kind of dangerous. He put that in there perfectly, so, props to him, but it just seemed like every time he looked up, it like I said, his yardage just doesn't seem to translate to what you saw from him on the screen. You're like, only 34 yards.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be at least double, when you watched. So And I agree. I think, Dobbs and Watson and Jaden Reed, and then you get Musgrave back, once, from his concussion. I mean, even just looking into next season too.
Yeah.
I mean, Kraft, he's 2 15 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some young, guys that I'm kind of like, I think Reed's going to be very, very good.
Oh, I agree.
He's a small, he's that kind of slot guy.
Yeah.
A little, Randall Cobb kind of, player.
With a little more speed than Randall.
Yeah. So I think Reed's going to be very, very good coming up. I mean, he's been fantasy-wise too. The last few weeks been really, really good. Really good. So, especially for a guy deep off a waiver wire.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So we move on to our picks of the week. And our QBs are Dak, who played last night and had a great game. Probably will end up near the top.
Yeah.
We have Mahomes, we have Dobbs, we have Hurts, we have Lamar, and we've got Allen. And of course, right now playing are so we can't pick them. And having played are the other ones, but playing right now are Tua, who's not having that great of a game, and
big chunk.
And
tore out of his arm.
Yeah.
I showed you that picture.
Crazy. And then Tim Boyle, who, I mean, he was lighting it up. In fact, right at the end of the half, he threw a 99-yard touchdown. Unfortunately, it was to Miami.
Yeah.
I'm going with Stroud. I'm going to ride.
No brainer.
Are you saying I don't have a brain?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's how easy of a pick it is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna ride the bus because I think this is a tremendous athlete. I mean, he's not only can he make the throws, he consistently keeps his completion percentage up high.
Yeah, I mean, and he's Noah Brown was out 2 weeks ago or this last week, and then Nico Collins was out week before. So Tank Dell has been a monster.
Yeah.
Who I was lucky enough to, because of buys, and he had the one down week, and I think he missed a couple weeks too. He was out on our waiver wire. I picked him up in the redraft league, and he's been my number 2. Actually, he's been my number 1 because Diggs has been frustrating to watch the last 2 weeks. But so Tank Dell's been kind of saving my team a little bit, even though I keep finding ways to lose.
That happens.
Yeah. So I mean, Stroud.
Jacksonville gives up a lot of points to quarterbacks. They don't to running backs. So, you've got a very efficient passer like that, and I think he's going to do well.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing well pretty much all. I think he's really only had maybe week 1, and then the week that he threw, I think he threw like 2 picks or a pick. He had one bad or down.
Well, I want to say he's had 6.
I think it was after their bye, I think.
Well, and I think I read that he's had 6 turnovers in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So he's not protecting the ball that well.
Yeah.
But he's still putting up huge numbers.
Yeah, I think with the turnovers, maybe he's willing to let it, turn it loose a little more because he really trusts Tank Dell and Nico and Noah Brown is, he had a stretch. Dalton Schultz has had monster games.
I mean, you talk about those 3 receivers, and it's like having CeeDee Lamb and A.J. Brown and Tyreek. Oh, wait a second. I had never heard of pretty much any of them until...
Yeah, Noah Brown was a kind of flame out from Dallas.
Right.
Nico... kind of last season came on a little bit. He'd pop here and there.
Right. And Tank is a rookie.
And Tank Dell's a rookie.
But you sit here and you go, is it back to that thing? Does the as Greg Jennings would say, well, I was the wide receiver that was so good, and yet he went to Minnesota and was horrible.
Yeah.
So who is making who look good? And my guess is it's Stroud making 3 guys who, and I'm not saying that they're not good receivers. It's kind of like a Malik Heath or a Dontavian Wicks. If you've got a quarterback that will look your way and starts building trust with you, you're going to turn into a wide receiver.
Yeah.
So 3 guys and.
Yeah, and the matchup, like I said, is good. Jacksonville's been playing. Last week Lawrence played a lot better.
Right.
So could be, a a potential shootout even.
Right, and if it turns into a shootout,
we know what
Stroud's going to throw a lot of yards.
What he did against Cincinnati, that shootout. I mean,
was that 400 plus yards?
Yeah, a couple touchdowns. Yeah, he was crazy good.
Yeah.
So
So
my pick. I mean, like I said, that's no brainer. That's how easy of a pick it was. I just didn't want to pick the same guy, so I'm going to go with Kyler Murray versus the Rams.
That should be a good one too.
Yeah, and he's the week he came back, a little slower, still put up a decent game, and he was still rushing like he did pre-injury, so that was nice to see.
Right.
And then last week, another decent week. So he's kind of ramping it up here. Hollywood Brown has been bad since Kyler came back, which is not what everybody was thinking was going to happen. So,
right.
Against the Rams, that their defense isn't anything to really write home about. So,
no,
just one guy. But,
and he's even not even that good anymore, is he?
Yeah. I think he's still good, but I don't think he's putting up the stats that he had been. Yeah. So you're just not hearing.
You're doubling, triple teaming him.
Well, yeah, and so that's why you're just not hearing about Aaron Donald,
right?
That much. But yes, so yeah, I think Kyler, Trey McBride, he's really come on strong.
He has.
When Dobbs the last week with Dobbs, and then I think he had a stinker like last week. But
he was still targeted a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still getting the targets.
Yep.
And if you get the targets, you're going to turn that into, we've talked about that. It's like anytime you're getting 8+ targets in a game, it should translate. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you either drop the ball or the throws aren't all there, a la Devontae Adams. You could give him 15, and if only 3 are catchable, well, you're not going to turn up with anything.
Yeah.
So it really depends, and I think that Kyler's a better passer than a lot of guys, not necessarily Dobbs, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So moving on, we've got our running backs. We've got Christian McCaffrey, who already scored 25.5 points or something. We've got Mostert, who's playing right now. We've got JT. We've got ETN. We've got Hall playing now, and we've got Pacheco. And I am going to go Barkley. Saquon Barkley versus New England. And
the round mound of touchdown.
Huh?
The round mound of touchdown.
Yeah, round mound of touchdown.
Even though he's not round, he's
no. Saquon, he busted loose last week, which gives me the thought that maybe they figured out that you have to use the best player on your team.
He's truly their only offensive option left.
Right.
I think Darren Waller's still. I haven't heard anything about Darren Waller.
Nope.
And then their receiving room. I think I joked about it early in the season. They have their receivers. They've got like 7 slot receivers. Like they don't have any true you can joke all you want, but they don't have anybody like the size of like Kenny Golladay, who they had last season or 2 seasons ago. And Grant Lake said he was kind of the butt of everybody's joke because he just disappeared and refused to basically play pretty much. But Barkley's truly is their only option, and his usage is just he's gonna. The opportunities that he's gonna be getting week in and week out, and in the passing game. We saw that last week.
Right.
The 2 receiving touchdowns. That's huge. So I think and New England has been declining yet even further. Mac Jones might not start this week, and I don't even know if they've named a starter yet there. So, I don't know. I think Barkley should be in line for a. And
I'm surprised that Atlanta actually wants to go out and steal away Belichick after
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know they were.
Wait, didn't you say Atlanta? Washington.
I think it was.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was Washington. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, because that was, and then cut back to last week. Eric Bieniemy. We talked about that yesterday. Yeah. That was the guy who I was trying to think of.
And I saw him in my mind when you were saying that, but I couldn't think of who it was.
Yeah.
But then you made me think it was someone else, and I'm like, God, I thought Eric Bieniemy went there.
Yeah, that's who I was trying to think of last week. So that'd be interesting to see Belichick with Bieniemy as the OC, if Belichick would let him actually, unlike what he has been doing in New England recently. So Yeah, so I like Barkley. I am a guy coming off of IR who was a waiver wire gem and Kyron Williams this week against Arizona. So really hitting that matchup for my plays of the week.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp probably going to be out. I guess I'd have to double check, but
he was still listed
at
questionable.
best. So
yeah,
probably on the wrong side of questionable as well.
Right.
So, and we saw, like I said, Kyron was an absolute monster while Cooper Kupp was out early season.
right. Which is why they got rid of Cam Akers.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, they didn't need him.
Yeah. So
which is an interesting thing because Cam would have been starting in because he probably wouldn't have been injured because he wouldn't have been playing.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So yeah, I think Kyron, and against Arizona, easy. That's a pretty running back friendly matchup. And like I said, you just look at the history from the first part of the year before he got hurt. He was just a monster. A lot of touchdowns, good yardage involved in the passing. And like I said, if Cooper sits this week, that boosts Kyron, and then obviously Puka as well, who was
who's also listed as questionable.
But I think I did look. I saw Puka said that he was on the right side of questionable, though,
Gotcha.
that he should, or he was limited in practice or something like that. So
Gotcha.
We'll see. But yeah, I think the matchup and again usage coming off, because he's the kind of guy too that they'll make sure that he's, they're not going to run him out there if he's not 100%.
Right. Right. So we go to the wide receivers, and we've got CeeDee Lamb, who played last night. We've got Tyreek Hill, who's playing right now. A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who played yesterday. Tank Dell, and Mike Evans. So I am going to go with Mr. Target. Keenan Allen versus Baltimore.
It's the toughest matchup, but...
You know what? But...
the sheer number.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. I mean, he's going to see 12 to 14 targets. Mm-hmm. If he sees 12 to 14 targets and catches 8 or 10 of those, my guess is it's going to be for close to 100 yards and probably a touchdown.
Yep.
Good. I'll take that every week out of a wide receiver.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Whether that be my number 1 or my number 2, that's 16-ish points in a non-PPR league. Those are good numbers.
Yeah, tack on 8 points if that's the reception total, 8 or 10.
Right.
I mean,
In
really
PPR, which I have him in one of my leagues, which is PPR, and he's been a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, even when he doesn't get the yards, when you're catching 10, 12 balls, that's 10, 12 points.
Well, that's always been the thing for fantasy-wise for Keenan Allen is he's so safe. Because even if the yardage isn't there, he's catching 8, 9, passes.
Right.
So and then you get those huge spike games where he's just ridiculous, which we've seen a lot of this season. So
yeah. And I get it. It's Baltimore. It's bound to be a tough matchup, but he's been putting the numbers up regardless of who he plays against.
Yeah, Herbert's been playing better too. So this is another one that could be a shootout,
exactly,
or that, or Baltimore stays at, a score ahead,
right?
And
so they have to keep on
going.
throwing.
So yeah, I agree. I am I'm gonna go. He's been Mr. Consistent for most of the season. Michael Pittman against Tampa Bay, which is a pretty friendly matchup for wide receiver. Not so much running backs, even though JT's number 3.
But
I think
but Pacheco's on there too for the 18th time in 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So
I always get a kick out of CBS Sports and their idea of who the guys are that should be scoring points sometimes.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I think Pittman, like I said, he's been consistent. And against Tampa, another, he'd like, just because you'd like to see it, but a lot of these matchups could end up being high scoring. Like you got, the Houston, Jacksonville, Cardinals, Rams potentially, or that one could go the other way and they both just look horrible.
Yeah.
And then, Indy and Tampa Bay, you get Gardner playing, one of his, whatever week he decides to play good.
Yeah.
Pittman's his favorite target.
Yep.
And, I don't think he's really had a true breakout game this season yet. So
Pittman?
Yeah.
Right. And
it's pretty steady.
To be honest, people say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. But I think that having
Gardner.
the quarterback Gardner having Gardner throwing the ball versus
Richardson.
it definitely gives more chances for Pittman
Yep.
than with Richardson.
Yeah.
And people are going to say, yeah, but Richardson is the quarterback of the future. He may be.
Yeah.
I like what Gardner Minshew brings, and if he elevates some of those players, maybe that's what they need.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, he's started out a little, because
Right.
Excuse me, you got rookie quarterback coming in who's, a really athletic guy. I mean, cannon for an arm, but, also likes to run.
Right.
And that
sometimes runs too much.
That might be a conversation they might have to have and be like, hey, you don't want to end up like, like Richardson, he's such a big guy. I'd liken him to like Cam Newton, but Cam was like special for those, couple seasons, but then injuries caught up and it's, shoulder injury. That's really what, ended Cam's career.
Yeah.
So, the Indy might want to sit down and be like, hey, we like what you bring.
I heard that's what ended Breeze's career.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Apparently
so that
he can't
even,
throw the
can't
throw with his hand.
Use his arm. So
yeah. So moving on to the tight ends, we've got Kelsey, we've got Kittle, who already played. We've got Taysom Hill, we've got Hawkinson, we've got Laporta, who played, and we've got Jake Ferguson, who kind of laid an egg yesterday. And I am going to match up with your quarterback and take Trey McBride. I mean, like we said, even though it was a down week last week, he's still getting the targets.
Yeah.
And again, targets turn into opportunity. Targets are opportunities that turn into catches and turn into yards and turn into. Anytime you can, and he's who got injured before him
on the Cardinals?
Yeah.
Zach Ertz,
who I had in one of my leagues. Ertz was getting a ton of targets, and McBride kind of jumped in there, and it looked like nothing happened. So I see him continuing to get those targets, and it could easily turn into a big weekend.
Yeah, I agree. And targets are an earned stat. You don't go out there and get a bunch of targets if you're not, trying.
Right.
Getting separation.
Right.
And there seems to be a pretty good rapport between him and Kyler already.
Right.
He's a second year. Right?
Yeah, I think
this is his second year.
Yeah, so he was
he's been playing with Kyler for a little bit. So
although Kyler missed a lot last year too, didn't he?
I think it was towards the end, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it was like the last couple weeks because James Conner was huge those last couple weeks because he was just kind of like Barkley, just getting so many opportunities. So So McBride, he's minus that one game either last week or week before. He's been pretty good since he's been the true starter. The only thing, I don't know if Ertz is going to be back or not, but, if he is, he'll still figure in, a little bit.
Right.
But, McBride's definitely the future for him. So.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So, all right, I'm going to go with David Njoku against Denver. Denver's defense has been playing a lot better recently.
Yeah.
But against tight end, they're still the best matchup for fantasy. So, Thompson, Dorian Thompson Robinson or Robinson Thompson?
I think it's Thompson Robinson.
Yeah, DTR.
DTR.
Yeah, that sounds right. So, DTR, last week he saw a ton of targets to Njoku.
Yeah.
I think he had double digit, well over double digit, like 12 to 15 or something.
Well over.
Like that.
He almost had triple digits.
Yeah. That would be crazy. Who is it? Was it Brandon Marshall who broke he had the record for catches in a game?
How many was it?
I think at the time, didn't Puka, he broke that this year?
I don't know.
It was like, I think it was Brandon Marshall. I don't, maybe in Denver or even because he played in New York for the Jets for a little bit.
Yeah.
It was one of those two places. He had just a ridiculous amount of catches. But, so Njoku's getting all the targets. It's a good matchup. And DTR seems to be, they're designing a lot of short yardage plays for him. He didn't seem comfortable really trying to air it out, even though in college had a very good passing career. Obviously much more of an athletic kind of runner type of quarterback, but so I think like I said, Denver's been playing a lot better. So if the offense struggles and Denver, the defense is playing well. DTR is going to just look for Njoku, I believe, because he's such a huge person.
Yeah.
So it's been hurting Cooper last week. Still ended up decent, but it wasn't great. So it's definitely, I think he's just going to be a favorite this week for targets.
Yep. Moving on, we have our Love 'em, Flip 'em, Leave 'em segment. And I decided to go out and choose 3 guys that are relatively close in projections for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. And that is touchdown Gus Edwards, Brian Robinson Jr., who had a pretty nice game yesterday, mm-hmm. and James Conner.
Yeah.
And this one I've got I struggle with this because Gus Edwards keeps on putting up points. But I think Brian Robinson is in a better position to do well.
Yep.
And I think that if it used to be that if you'd say I'm trading James Conner, people would be like, oh, great, I'll take him. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, he's not seen as much time. DeMarcado is stealing some carries.
Conner was on IR for a little bit this year.
Right.
So, he did miss some time. I think he's still the lead back there.
He is, but it's gone to more of a 1-2 with 2 getting a lot more than he used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of like when Brian Robinson came back and he started taking those carries away from
Gibson.
Mm-hmm. It just completely shifted, and Gibson gets maybe 10%.
Yeah, Gibson gets a lot more work in the as a passing down back,
right.
But Robinson also has been very good. He had that 2 weeks ago. I remember he was the leading receiver on the team.
Yeah.
So
I think I would keep Brian Robinson, mm-hmm. Mainly because down the stretch, Washington has looked pretty good.
Yeah.
With Howell leading them.
Mm-hmm.
And Robinson gets his opportunities because Howell seems to be an effective passer. Gus Edwards, you don't know if the 2 touchdowns per week is going to continue.
Yeah, normally it doesn't.
Right. Especially in that environment mm-hmm. where if Lamar starts heating up, either in the passing game or himself running, it's going to take some of those away.
Yep.
So right now I would say that Gus Edwards is, who wouldn't want Gus Edwards on their team?
Yeah, I agree.
Wouldn't trade for him.
Yeah, from what he's been doing, the yardage isn't impressive because, it's Keaton Mitchell,
right.
And then a little bit of Justice Hill yet, even though he's been getting phased out a little more because of the emergence of Keaton Mitchell. But then as soon as they get in within 10 yards, Gus Edwards is back there, and they're just handing the ball off.
Right.
So, there's a chance that it could continue. He, might be a little more involved yet, too. It might be it might solely become Keaton Mitchell and Gus Edwards with losing Mark Andrews. I got to find elsewhere. I think in one of my dynasties, I have OBJ. I think I threw him in one of my flexes this week just because now there's a void for a pass catcher.
Isaiah Likely should be out there.
Yeah, but he just hasn't
it hasn't.
Like I said, he's had maybe one or 2 or 3 maybe decent games, but it's never been what you would expect. When Mark Andrews is out, you're like, ooh, Isaiah Likely. He's good, but he's just.
But we've seen games where Mark Andrews disappears.
True.
And you shake your head and you say, why aren't you using? Because we've talked about it. Mm-hmm. As soon as they need to move the ball and they start throwing it to Mark Andrews, they move the ball right down the field.
The offense is just,
and all of a sudden you'll get to a game where he'll have 2 catches for 15 yards, and you're thinking, whoa, this is Mark Andrews. Mm-hmm. Why did we get away from that?
Yeah, it's any team. I've been hollering about, like the Bills with Diggs. Same
Yeah.
thing, they struggling to move the ball. 3 and out. Josh Allen interception. And then all of a sudden it's like 3 back-to-back passes to Diggs, and they've gone
Boom.
35 yards down the field.
Right.
It's like, well, I mean, yeah. but
It's kind of like I was watching the game, right before halftime today, and Miami had the ball, and I think Waddle had like 38 yards at the time, and he threw a little pass to, I think it was to Tyreek. Tyreek picked up 2 yards. Then all of a sudden he threw a pass to Waddle, 10 yards. Pass to Waddle, 11 yards. Pass to Waddle, 9 yards. I mean, just boom, boom, boom. There were 30 yards in 3 successive plays, and you've moved the ball. And there are teams that will do that. That one guy, I mean, because Sauce is on Tyreek.
Yeah.
So who are you going to throw to?
Yeah.
Well, obviously you're going to throw to
Jalen
Waddle.
Yeah.
And, before at halftime or shortly after halftime, I looked and he was up to like 114 yards receiving, I think I said to you.
Yeah.
Which for Jalen Waddle, I mean, it's usually, 50 yards and a touchdown ish. 114 yards shortly after halftime. Unbelievable in my mind.
Yeah.
And he's on my 30-plus year team, and I'm happy.
Yeah, I've got him in one of the dynasty leagues as well. So because he's always been kind of up and down, like you said. He's kind of middle, and then he'll spike.
Right, and it kind of depends on what Tyreek is doing.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I played against Tyreek. Was it last year that he had that 3-touchdown game in the first half? 220 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. That was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm playing against him, and I'm just sitting there going, how is it that I get to play against the team that scores he scored like 45 points in non-PPR in 25 minutes of game time? And I'm like, oh my God, I could get totally annihilated by one player. And I mean, luckily it ended there, but I still lost the game. So
Yeah.
it's frustrating.
Yep.
So I guess I think what we then landed on was our love 'em is Brian Robinson, our flip 'em is Gus Edwards, and our leave 'em is James Conner.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, totally agree.
So that's all we've got for this week. Hopefully you had a chance to enjoy Turkey Day yesterday and watch a few games, watch a game today, watch a whole lot fewer games this weekend because there aren't as many. But it sure was. It was fun having all that football yesterday.
Yeah.
I could handle football every day. I think I could year round.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk to the league and get it changed.
I'm sure they would. If they,
I bet the players would just love that, right?
Well, yeah, that'd be the thing with the players.
Yeah.
But yes.
So I am Ozzy.
And I'm Austin.
Have a great one.
See you.